Om Namah Shivaya. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the topic that we are doing is the opposite of the nature of ajnanam, which we finished. And related to that, obviously, is then what is the nature of jnanam? So this is what we are doing. What does self-knowledge really mean? What did it consist of? And realistically, based on the importance of vichara that we have already done, the description of the nature of jnanam really is a derivative of what vichara we should do. So jnanam is an interesting thing because as we have discussed it both in the morning meditation and later on, it is my nature. Jnanam is I am jnana swarupaha. It is not a property of mine. I am not a separate person that has a quality of being conscious. I am the very conscious entity. A very funny situation really, that I am the very nature of jnanam. But for whatever reason, the reason is lack of inquiry, lack of thinking, lack of the proper vichara. As we will continue to see, my jnanam is tainted and really wrong. I don't understand who I am, the completeness of myself, I don't understand. I think I'm incomplete. So this is an interesting thing because we can make a mistake about something else. If we don't see something else as accurately as it should be seen, then that's called a mistake. Oh, I didn't realize that. But the real question is, how can I make a mistake about myself? I am what I am, and it may be that I don't know some aspects of myself, like I have diabetes. So it takes a while to figure out, and one time you go to a doctor, that's what happened to me, all of a sudden my normal blood test was, and he says, "Sir, you are pre-diabetic." And very soon from pre-diabetic I became fully diabetic. This is a very interesting thing. Then I was very concerned, this, that or the other, and the more people I consulted, they said, "You're okay. The way your lifestyle is and so on, it's not a big problem. You're going to be okay." So anyway, so that's a discovery about myself that I didn't know. But fundamentally, if the Shastra says that you are complete, you're okay, you are immortal, that I don't understand. I don't accept it and I don't understand it. I mean, I'd like to understand it, I'd like to accept it, but realistically I can't. So the question is, why not? What is it that is keeping me from understanding? Really, vichara. Vichara is what's keeping me from understanding. So in this instance, the 10th man story is extremely useful. So there are two examples in Vedanta that are really crucial. They are like oceans of understanding. An ocean of understanding, an ocean means every time you take a dip in it, you find something new. That is what an ocean is. We think we know the ocean, but really the depth of things in the ocean is immeasurable. So also these two examples. These are the oceans of understanding. I think another one, even more important than that, is the dream analysis, which is ultimately what leads me to freedom, as we have discussed it. But in the meantime, these two examples, the rope snake example and the 10th man example, need to be fully internalized, and we need to base our vichara on it. So in that sense, it answers the question, how can I not be limited if I feel limited, and how can I have a mistake about myself? So there, the 10th man example is very important. I think you all know what that is, that there was a person who was under some mental pressure by his guru, that listen, I don't think you should be going with these youngsters. You youngsters should not be, because it's a springtime torrent of water, just like it's happening in California now. You have so much water flowing down from the melting snow that it is really dangerous. If you think that this is just a little river and so on, you have no idea how quickly you can swept by. So that was the situation. So the person said, no, sir, it's springtime, it's very nice weather, I think, please let us go. We are all good swimmers, we can do it, but be careful. Okay, all stay together. Make sure that you, and this 18-year-old boy was made a group leader and saying, okay, you're responsible for making sure that you count everybody and then you go and so on. So he was under some kind of a pressure already. He was not really enjoying the whole thing, because now he's been given this responsibility for counting. So they went. And then he was under so much pressure that he started counting. That somebody was there, so on. And he counted them, and there were 9 of them. So he says, no, there's, I think, something wrong. He counted them again from right to left instead of left, 9 again. And then his grief came over. He says, oh my goodness, I had no idea that one of our boys can be swept down the river. Why did I take this responsibility? This is a complete mistake. And so he started really, and so this is part of the story, which is a very important part of the story. Several parts of the story are very important. One of them is that he started to bang his head against the rough tree, and his blood started flowing down. He really wanted to just kill himself, commit suicide. That's how mad he was. And everybody else was supporting, and he wasn't telling everybody what's going on. All the boys got together. So this person was passing by, a wise person. He says, what's going on? Why are you crying? So he explained to them, this is what's happened. And there were 10 of us, and there is now only 9 left. There's one person who is missing. He says, really? So and while he was doing all this, this wise man quickly counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. He came up with 10. He says, is that really your problem? He says, you're making fun of me, asking me again and again if this is my problem. Here I am, we've lost a person, and you're just giving all these kinds of theoretical questions. He says, wait. Please do this for me. Line up in a line. Not over somebody sitting there under a tree, under a rock or anything. All of you right here. And he told this boy, you be on this end. So they all did that, and he was not sure why it is being all that. He is just delaying the whole thing. And the old wise man was smiling as he would do all this. Very indicative of Krishna talking to Arjuna. This is what is called prasanna gambhiryam. So he had an expression of prasanna gambhiryam, Krishna did. Because Arjuna is wailing. He's saying, oh my goodness, I don't want to fight this war. Already there are so many people who are killed. What is the use of it? And I'm killing my own uncles and friends and teachers who have really taught me. That's not what I want to do. He's wailing and he's sitting down, he's not fighting. So the Krishna has an expression of what is called prasanna gambhiryam. And Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, it is exactly like a child, I think I was mentioning it to you the other day, like a child that has a fever and is sleeping but with a nightmare. And the mother is sitting next to the child, and the child is saying, oh my gosh, this tiger is just after me. He's going to kill me. So the mother is, she's knitting or something, just, looking at her iPhone, and saying, baby, it's okay. But also being concerned. She pats the baby, but also has a smile on her face. It's a poor thing, has a fever, it'll be okay. Krishna had exactly the same expression. Prasanna gambhiryam. Gambhira means serious, but very pleasant seriousness. So this old man had this prasanna gambhiryam. And he said, wait, I'll tell you. He started counting. Okay, he says, you're with me? 1. Okay? 2. That's like that's 9. You are the 10th man. And this fellow, he started really sort of, I was telling you that Swamiji was Swami Dayananda when we used to ask him about how does it feel. So Swamiji used to say that it's a relief, it's very relaxing, but it is not a feeling of accomplishment. It's a feeling of regret. Oh my God, I have bothered so many people. I've gotten mad with people. I have been upset at some behavior from other people and so on and so forth. And how could I have done that? It's imagine. And so this fellow, when he was told that you are the 10th man, had that kind of a feeling. He started sort of like could not laugh, but his tears were gone, and he sat very sheepish about it. This is an important example because it is possible for someone to conclude that wrongly that I am incomplete when it is he's not, he or she is not. This is the example. This is what we have to understand. Very important example in Vedanta. So it answers the question, how can I, if I am really a immortal person, how is it that I am feeling mortal? Well, you're feeling mortal because you're not counting the whole thing. You're missing some parts to it. And there is reasonableness why you're not able to see that part which makes you complete. There's a reason for it. And once I give you the reason, you're going to be okay. So this is an important example because it tells us that really speaking, we have a possibility of wrongly understanding who I am. So, now to go back to the elements of knowledge. The elements of knowledge are vichara. And so this is a vichara. So this is what this wise old man did. And so another part of the story which is very good is that we are randomly counting ourselves. See, just like this person was also randomly counting. If he had, I don't think it's possible, but suppose he had lined up everybody, it's very possible that he might have said me, but not really. He was just not even counting himself, he's only doing things externally. Swami Akhandananda makes a very beautiful point. He said, in fact, in all of his writings and so on, so being grown up in India and having such contact with various thoughts, religious thoughts, even within Hinduism. It's not about their Christianity or Muslim, or that's a separate thing altogether. But even within Hinduism, there's such variation of thought. It's amazing. But he just normally, I think I've already mentioned that a couple of times, but he normally compares 3 different viewpoints, just to kind of contrast and make a point about the veracity of the Vedantic view. And so he says, one of them he takes is a yogi, one of them he takes is a bhakta, and the third one he takes is like an Advaita Vedanta. Okay? So in context of this, a yogi, and Buddhism is a offshoot of yoga, really speaking. Yogi feels the search should be within. The bhakta feels that the search should be outside. The Advaitic Vedanta feels it is neither inside nor outside. It is a complete analysis of inside and outside. This is the situation. Anyway, so the analysis of knowledge presupposes a careful counting of all of the aspects, and then it says, you are the whole. Here, I think I'll just repeat what I said earlier. Swami Akhandananda makes this point, a very important point really, is that many times the modern Vedanta, there's this thing called modern Vedanta, and modern Vedanta comes in various varieties, so many different ones, and all really obfuscation of the truth. It just distorts the truth. That's all it does. So one aspect of the modern Vedanta is you just keep on, and so who am I is a modern Vedanta. Just saying, do I need anything else? No. Just keep on saying, who am I, who am I, who am I. This is modern Vedanta. Another one which is modern Vedanta is just be a Sakshi. And just, if you keep on, I mean, I've had some discussions with some people who say, I think this is all that is necessary. Our Mahatmas say, no, this is not necessary. Because for some very interesting reasons, very important reasons really, but the fact of the matter is, if you think of yourself as a Sakshi of the world outside, you are still a dualist. And that all discussion is going to come. When we go into, there is a section here which will say advanced vichara or mananam, all these things will come. And I was briefly reviewing Swami Viditatmananda's book, and so that comes about in the analysis of Ishvara and Brahman. So in Swami Akhandananda's view, it's not I'm not saying that this is wrong or anything like that, it's just the way you present it. And so, in Swami Akhandananda's view, both the outside analysis, the analysis of the outside, and the analysis of the inside have to be reconciled. So from that sense, if you simply say, I am a Sakshi, I am a Sakshi, I am a Sakshi, which is correct, but incomplete. What does it say? It is necessary but insufficient. Necessary but insufficient. Necessary means that you have to start your inquiry with that, and this is what we've been doing. Atma is one, Anatma is many. How can you make a mistake about that? So certainly a vichara on the ekatvam of the Atma is important. Ekatvam means sakshi, one person. But if you don't go any further, here's the problem. There is still an outside world that has to be accounted for. So now because I am a sakshi and there is an outside world. Advaita Vedanta says you cannot end with that. There is no completeness. The completeness only comes when there is singularity in the whole world, which is you. And you have to understand that. So of course the answer, you know what the answer is. You know, it's interesting. In mathematics, these thoughts come back to me. When I first came to Berkeley to do my master's or PhD in Ashwin and I were talking about this. Ashwin also went to Berkeley about the same time. And we have a very similar story. We both wanted to do PhD. And we both ended up stopping and not doing the PhD. And so I had a different reason. One of my reasons were that my advisor, Dr. Wattenberg, looked at my record from India and said, "Sir, you are not qualified to even start the study of PhD. You haven't done numerical analysis, you haven't done this, you haven't done that. It'll take you a year and a half just to bring you up to the point." It is true. So I started to, he says at the very minimum, even at the master's level, you have to take some courses. And so one of the courses I took was, what was it? I forget the name of it. Could have been numerical analysis, I'm not sure. It was an undergraduate course. Funny situation for me because when I entered the course, and I'm from India, and in India we have, at that time, when I graduated in 1961, 95% of the people were boys. There were very few girls. And the girls who were there somehow got in through some pull. There was really not, didn't demand it. So they didn't do very well. So my impression about the girls was that they are behind the boys. Boys are smarter. So we took this course. And when I looked in the first day, 2/3 were girls. And 1/3 were boys. So you know what my thinking was? Getting an A in this course is going to be easy. How wrong I was. Anyway, I'm just giving you this personal story, but here's the real message for this. I barely escaped a C. I got a B minus. And in a couple of midterms, not the final exam. My final exam I had recovered, but my midterm was so bad. So he had asked me to derive an equation. So it relates to what we are doing, so that's why I'm bringing it up. So there was a question about derive the following equation. So the equation was already given. Left-hand side and the right-hand side was already given, which was it had already been done into a few parts, just a few elements, not a very complex element, just a few elements. So the equation was very obvious, but the derivation is what was needed. And I looked at it completely wrongly. And I said, okay, I don't forget what the exact one was, but on the left-hand side, I said, this plus this plus this. The right-hand side, this minus this. And I think they are both the same. You're given an hour and a half for the midterm, and there's like six different things. And so there was not much time. You had to do it very quickly. So I thought this cannot be that complex, so it must be like this. Failed. So I went to my professor and I said, what happened? He says, you have not done any derivation. I said, I think I did enough there. He says, no, you have not done enough. You're missing this, you're missing that part. This is not a derivation. I've already given you the equation. I want you to do the derivation. This is a very important thing. This goes back to the importance of vichara. In our life, the equation is already given to us. Tattvamasi. You, the Jivatma, equals Paramatma. That and you are exactly the same. The equation is given to us. The whole idea is, how do you derive it? You cannot go around saying, just like I was saying about this Hare Krishna lady who accosted Swami Dayanandji in Toronto and said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You are calling yourself Ishvara? It is the worst thing that anybody can do. So what she was right, that you are saying Tattvamasi, because she doesn't understand what Tattvamasi is, and if somebody else says Tattvamasi, she says, he also probably doesn't understand. But if you understand, meaning if you derive it, and so there's a lot involved in this Tattvamasi. Anyway, to complete that topic, Swami Akhandananda said, if you simply stay at being a Sakshi, you have a problem. The problem is there is something outside which is real, which you haven't tackled yet. You've ignored it for the time being. And it is good enough for a yogi. It's good enough for a yogi. The yogi says, I just want some samadhi. It's a very pleasant thing. And somebody would say, I am such a good yogi, I can meditate anytime. I've really met some people who have said that, I'm good, I can meditate, and I feel this is enough for me. Is this enough for you? You are still a human being, you're limited, death is staring you at your eyes, and for a few hours you feel good and you think that is the end? The Advaita Vedanta says no, this is not the answer, because you haven't tackled the world outside. The bhakta feels, yes, there is duality, but I am accepting it because my Ishta Devata will take care of me. I will merge into the Ishta Devata. If I just keep on repeating Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha, that's all that it takes, because in the Yajna it is said that the ultimate goal of a person doing yaga is to become the Ishta Devata. So the bhakta feels that if I am very sincere in chanting, sincere in doing everything, then I will become one with my Ishta Devata. So what does that mean? That means that there is duality between I and my Ishta Devata. I may merge with him. I hope to merge with my Devata. But right now I'm not merging. This is a false hope. What will happen in the future, we don't know. You may merge with him, you may not merge with him, we have no idea. This is something that you have to see now. So the so-called identity is due to a mistake that has to be corrected. Therefore, the Advaita Vedanta says, to close that topic, it is not enough to say I'm a Sakshi. You also have to now see that one of you is mithya. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, you don't become two people. even though there is an appearance of two people, identical. You smile and the other person smiles. You turn left, the other person turns right. But there is an identity between them only when you understand that one of them is mithya, the other one is real, even though there is duality in an appearance. That has to happen. Otherwise, you're not done yet. So, this is where the understanding of the Mahavakyas is important. Just simply saying that this is already true, like I did in my numerical analysis, is a failure. That's not what understanding of them. Like E is equal to mc square is another one. People will say, okay, energy is equal to matter, but how? How exactly that happens? That has to be understood. Then you are a qualified physicist. So, this is the nature of jnanam, which means that individually you have to look at factors, examine them, see where you're making a mistake, correct it, and then comes total freedom. So with that, let's look at some specific, so here, as we have said, so the analysis of the knowledge starts really with verse number 24 and goes up to, I think, 4 or 5, I forget the exact number, but it goes into it. Here, Swami Akhandananda, I made a note of some points. I'm not going to cover, like I have already told you, I'm not going to go through word by word. I'm just going to give you some overall concepts that struck me. So this one was very interesting. That he said that what Swami Akhandananda said in his autobiography, what drove him to search for the truth, he was very honest about it. He says, he was almost like saying, I might as well tell you what happened to me. He said, I started searching for the truth because I was very afraid of death. That is what really drove me. I was terrified. This is a very interesting thing, really, when you think about it. That people are not afraid of death. This is really a mystery. There's a very interesting thing. Swami Dayananda used to say that if you really were going to die, you'll be very, very afraid. Somehow in our subconscious, we feel that I'm not going to die. And so you sort of accept it. Still, the fear of death should be more prevalent in people, but it isn't. So when he was writing this, my own life flashed in front of me. You remember a few things that really just stand out. I was telling you about, in Berkeley, when I was a student, I felt really this Shruti was saying, I'm not happy. And I said, I don't want this Shruti. How can I get rid of it? That was one of the important things in my life. Here's was another interesting thing. When I was 9 years old, I was visiting my father's older brother in New Delhi. And I can tell you, the house, the room, the corner of the room, wherever we were when this thing happened to me. So I was 9 years old, and I had a cousin who was a couple of years older than me, 11 or so. So we were playing and so on. And my parents and his parents, I think his mother had already passed away, so his father had gone out somewhere. And so the two of us were playing. And so at the corner of a room, in one place, there was a stack of rajais, which is, of course, the quilted one for the winter time, very thick and so on. So because a large household, they all had quilted ones in the corner. The servants would take out in the morning, they put them back and so on. So, and it was very high. So we got into a contest, can we climb up without really making the whole thing fall down? I still remember that so well. So Ajay, my cousin, he did it very easily. And I had some more difficulty. In the meantime, Ajay went for a glass of water or something, I don't know. So I was lying there alone. I had somehow a severe attack of fear of death. I don't know how that happened. 9 years old, I was saying, oh my God, I don't want to die. How is that going to... Because I had already understood that everybody has to die. But I didn't want to die. But anyway, that feeling went away, but I remember it was overpowering. Anyway, Swami Akhandananda, going back to him, he went to a Mahatma. And he told the Mahatma, Swamiji, I am very afraid of death. And I need some help. I understand that you have conquered death. And I want to know how. Because I am desperate. This is not just a theoretical thing to me. I cannot function because I am so afraid of death. Can you help me? So the Mahatma answered him. He said, I cannot prevent death, but I will help you to conquer the fear of death. So Akhandananda says that was some hope, but still not a complete answer. How can you not prevent death and still that I don't have the fear of death? But then the Mahatma explained this to him. And like this, he had so many instances where he approached people to try to find out what's going on. And it distilled their knowledge and then slowly got better. And then, of course, became a big Mahatma on his own. So what this Mahatma told him was, let me ask you a question. Are you afraid of sleeping? So this young boy, I don't remember how old he was even there, but he was pretty young because he ran away from home and was searching from the Mahatmas. So he asked him, are you afraid of sleep? So this boy said, no, I'm not afraid of sleep. Then why are you afraid of death? So the boy said, sir, those two are not comparable because I come back from sleep, I'm the same person. And here, once I die, then I don't know what's going to happen to me. He says, nothing is going to happen to you. It is exactly like that. Sleep and death are 99.9% similar. That 0.1% differences are, you will no longer be married to the same person. You'll be married to a different person. That's it. There's no other difference. Another difference is that here you've already grown up to be an adult. There you have to become a little baby again for a while. It'll take you a while to be. Just slowly that dawned on me. Because then the Mahatma explained to him, listen, in death, in sleep also, you have a complete cessation of your relationships. Your spouse is not your spouse, your children are not your spouse. Everything just becomes totally different. But you are still there. Because right now our feeling is, who I am is, I've got friends, I've got relationships, got children, I'm doing okay. And so your identity is tied up with lots of other things. They're really sort of supporting you. But in sleep, who's supporting you? No one is supporting you. You are not there. But you actually like it even better. This is the funny part. You think you like, family and friends and so on, but compared to them, you like sleep better. After a while, you feel, I have had enough. I just want to go to sleep. Sleep means what? That means no relationships, no nothing. I am just by myself. And Ishvara. It's very pleasant. So he says, the lack of connectivity is common. When you die, there will be a complete lack of connectivity. But because you still have some issues and problems about who you are, you're going to take up another birth and go through the whole thing all over again. So he says, death is not to be feared. It has to be analyzed. Swami Akhandananda says, that was education. That really started to shape my thinking. And then the more I looked into it, I could tell, yes, this is the case. This is the situation. So, So this is a commentary as part of the verse 24, just for your notes. When you study I'm not going to go through the verses, but when you study the verses, you can connect some of these points and notes to the verses themselves. There is a very big analysis which is common to a lot of wonderful texts in different kinds, which is the lakshana of the Atma. So lakshana is a very interesting word and an important word. Lakshana means a definition which is unique to something, not common to anything else, just unique to something. It's like saying, what is the lakshana of a person? So the lakshana of a person is the name, the parentage, the age, and the actual body-mind complex. That is the lakshana of that person. So here, the lakshana of Atma. And the lakshana means that it should not be common with anything else. Because then you will have a confusion. Supposing you have a lakshana which is common to 3 people, you haven't finished yet. Out of this, which one is the one you are talking about? So it must be something totally unique to anything else. The lakshana of Atma is Satchidananda. Satchidananda. And so the analysis of Satchidananda, even in a cursory way, again we don't have the complete time, but I'll mention some aspects of it for the time being. That's the whole study of Vedanta, is really to understand the lakshana of Atma. Because if I can uniquely identify it separate from others, which I need to do. All my efforts of gaining freedom is to understand the uniqueness of the Atma. It's totally unique. We've already talked about it. It's something new, but just to, from that standpoint. So here Swami Akhandananda just gives us some quick notes to look at. Not in great depth, but just to do that. So he says, a book that you see is, so let's say a book like this. So this book is, it is known to you and it is pleasing to you. In the Drigdrishya Viveka, there's an important verse which I think was borrowed from one of the Upanishads. I don't remember which one. In fact, I don't know. I shouldn't say I don't remember, I don't know, but it is taken from one of the Upanishads. It says, Asti bhati priyam rupam cha iti amsha panchakam. Adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tato dvayam. Asti bhati priyam rupam asti bhati priyam nama rupam cha. Nama rupam cha amsha panchakam. Adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tato dvayam. So he says that anything in this world has three characteristics. One is that it is. You cannot talk about something which is not there. Yes, you can. You can say this thing is not there. So that also you can say. But for the purpose of this analysis, anything that you are talking about is. And it is known to you. Either from a memory or from a pratyaksha. And also, anything evokes one of three reactions in you. One is attraction, one is repulsion. I mean, these are very strong words, so just to indicate. One which is positive, one is negative, and the third one is I don't care. These are the five things. Asti bhati priyam nama rupam ichit amsha panchakam. Out of this, the first three, asti bhati priyam, is the lakshana of Brahman. Adyatrayam brahma rupam tato dvayam jagat rupam. The last two belong to the jagat. So nama rupa is really the form of the waves, but the first one is the water itself. So that's the general feeling for it. Now let's go to this verse, it's Satchidananda Lakshanam. So here, Swami Akhandananda says, look at it this way. This book it is known to me and it is pleasing to me. So am I. So am I. Just like a book, I'm also there. I know and I am hopefully pleased with myself. All the variations of pleasing or not pleasing. But there is a difference. This is what creates the lakshana for Atma. There's a difference. The difference is that the book is known to me, not to the book. The book doesn't know me, but I know the book. Number one. The knowing of the book is dependent on me, but my knowingness is not dependent on anything. Swayam Jyoti. We saw that earlier. There's the second difference. The third difference is that whether the book is pleasing to me or not depends on many factors. Usefulness. Is it really helping me, not helping me? Do I want it? Does it matter to me? So one of them is don't care. I don't care. When you go on a road to a rock, you don't care whether the rock is there or not. But if the rock is right in the middle of the road, then you don't like it because you are driving and what is the rock doing there? But if it's on the side of the road, then you don't care. So the pleasingness of the book, this is the third difference. The pleasingness of the book is dependent on me, my situation, my moods. My pleasingness is not dependent on anything. Perhaps you can say that it depends on whether I am completely covered or not. We can introduce that thing. We have already talked about the fact that in the middle of the day, if you have darkness in the room, it is because you have closed off all the windows. You don't have to generate the light. It is already there, but you are covering up the light with the windows. Here our acharyas, I think Swami Maheshananji had pointed this out, that he said, let's look at this. Supposing you have clouds that cover the sun, and your conclusion is there is no sun. That conclusion is also possible by the light of the sun. Beautiful. The light of the sun lights up the clouds, which then cover up the sun with and generates my conclusion there is no sun, or the sun is not there. Really, that's what happens in places where you don't see sun for days. It feels like the sun has disappeared. It's never going to come out. But it's just a covering. So my pleasingness is really independent, but I just have to remove. It's not a question of my moods, not a question of whether it is useful to me or not. It is just that my ananda is ananta, but I have to remove the cloud of ignorance from me. So this is what uniquely defines Satchidananda. This is what the lakshana of the Atma is, Satchidananda. And so once we understand this, and to review it in my mind and to fully grasp it means this is what jnanam really is. Okay. We are almost at 6 o'clock. I'll just make one, there's about 6 or 7 points that I need to make, but let me just make one point. So, the body is asat rupa, samsara is asat rupa, atma is sat rupa. How? How can you say that the atma is sat rupa? So here the thinking and the vichara is something that changes. We don't know what it is. The truth should not change. Like for instance, supposing, I see this is a carpet. And I can conclude this is a carpet because the carpet doesn't seem to change. If I come back tomorrow, it will be the same. So I say this is a carpet. But suppose this vastu that I'm looking at, right now and I'm looking at it, it becomes liquidy. And then it suddenly evaporates. Then it becomes solid again. So this is no longer a carpet, it becomes a question mark. What is it? Anything that changes should really generate a question, what is it? A conclusion, the truth about something means it must be singular. Only then it is sat, otherwise it is asat. For this reason also, the entire jagat is asat, including my body, including my mind. Sometimes my mind is happy, sometimes it is unhappy. This should clearly indicate, I don't know what it is. That doesn't happen to the Atma. It's the same one. This is another vichara for jnana. So like that, there are various suggestions to do vichara on jnanam, and they're all put together in a nice few verses in this wonderful book. So we'll continue that tomorrow morning, and we'll go from there. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.